Hello. All right. I think she did a good job at introducing me, so I'm gonna go ahead on and redo it. It's the same thing. Born and raised in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Just the south as you could go. So if I say something that don't sound right, it's just Southern slang in a way. I moved to Dallas in 2016, and from there I had no knowledge of anything that was called an art museum or anything geared just for art. I had no clue at all. I've always thought museums was for coins and dinosaurs and Civil War, Vietnam, and things like that. That's the only thing that I thought a museum was for. And when I walked into the modern, I saw only paintings and sculptures. And it was cause work that I instantly was able to understand, because looking at Jackson Pollock or Rothko at that time, I had no clue how would I even understand any of that. It wouldn't have made sense to me at all. But growing up, watching, cartoons and looking at colors and graffiti on the trains that pass on Backstreet in the neighborhood that I grew up in, I could see that work and understand it, at least with the colors and the shapes and things like that. Because when I paint, I see colors and shapes. I don't really see individuals. I place the colors where I need them to be placed first in my head before I could see what that person is actually doing. I just see a lot of shapes and colors. So seeing his work inspired me to at least try, because I've sketched my whole life. I say my whole life, but literally since I was a third grader, I've been sketching. It was one of those things that I feel like I just knew how to do, and it worked. So by the time I was in sixth grade, I don't think that scanners was out at this time. I think you had to go to Can-B or some pharmacy to print out pictures. And my grandmother had this one photograph of my great-grandmother that she really wanted to gift to her sister, and she didn't have an extra copy of it, so I was the only one that was artistic, and my grandmother saw that in me, and she was just like, hey, I need you to sketch this so I could give to my sister. And when I sketched it, it looked just like my great-grandmother. And till this day, my grandmother she kept the sketch and gave the actual picture to her sister instead. And I don't know, for some reason at the time it meant something. It didn't mean as much to me at that time, because I just thought that's my grandmother. Of course she's gonna do that, But she genuinely really enjoyed what I've done, and when I look back now, I'm wondering, is it the fact that she was able to feel something from that image versus the photograph? I guess we'll never know, but it just went haywire after that. So I was a sixth grader working. I was getting paid from family members to sketch everything. It was hey, I need to sketch of Bob Marley, Marcus Garvey, and the baby portraits in the family and things like that. So I was doing that, and it just it's one of those things that I just done because I loved it. So I didn't spend a lot of time outside at times during the summertime because I was sketching. That was something that I really enjoyed until, I started getting older and life happened. I don't know who put this picture here. But that's me when I was a kid. But so early on when I started painting, I didn't have I didn't have an identity because I was just pouring out my feelings. Like I was painting my emotions. Like just started painting, didn't even know where to get paint from or a canvas. I think I was buying Michaels. I went to Michaels and they had paint and stuff like that. So I experimented with that, and I was just painting my emotions. I don't think like I had a visual, they say visual language and things like that. So I just kept going. Like it was figurative work, but it was more abstract and things like that. But over time, I slowly started developing my own style. I knew what I wanted the work to feel like. That's first and foremost for me is a feeling. Like I'm not thinking about how good it looks painted or how great it looks sketched out. I still to this point, I'm better at painting and I'm great at sketching, but I still don't care for that. Like it's not one of those things you could excite me. Like, cause it's more of like, can you take something and that can't talk, that can't say anything, and give you a true feeling? And it's not about painting like dark stories or political things. It's not like that. It's just more of whatever you're painting, if you put your passion into it, and you should be able to feel something from it. At least that's what I hope. But I don't. Do we have any questions? I don't. I'm just going with my life story at this point. But yeah. So growing up in Thibodaux, you don't have opportunity to. I don't want to sound bad because I still go home, but there's just a lot of lack of knowledge at home. Like we talking, Thibodaux is real Cajun, like Cajun country. It's real Southern, and there's a lot of things you're not gonna know about, like art school, or somebody thinking that, I didn't ever think that art was a thing that we could even do. I thought you had to be, and for art, I thought cartoonist. I thought that was the only way you could get into like doing art. I didn't even think there was paintings at some point, but I didn't know how they was even created, to be honest with you. I just didn't know. But yeah, so early on, my work was real emotional. This is actually a house that I grew up in Thibodaux. This painting is called Box Fan Heroes, and this painting to me is important because that was the transition of my life. Like, that was the transition of my life, living there and being in that front room. I don't know if y'all familiar with a shotgun house, but a shotgun house is like, there's your living room, bedroom, and if you're lucky, you get another bedroom and the kitchen and the washer and dryer. Sometimes it's outside. So, but there was a transition in my life living in this house because around this time I was becoming a teenager, and I would look outside the window, but I was always afraid for like my cousins and things to see me. So I would hide behind the fan and the blinds. That way I could, I was learning. I was learning exactly what I wanted to be because I thought that's the only thing to be is in the streets. So from there, that's when I started making my transition and making decisions for myself because I thought that's the only option in life. But eventually I grew out of that. But yeah, so here's some more paintings. This is another early on painting. So around this time, I didn't know how to paint faces, but again, I was mostly focused on the feeling. Like it was just, how do I feel? This painting was about my uncle. really cared about my uncle. He was like a role model for a lot of the boys in the family. And I seen and heard his stories of travel. You know, he moved to Harlem and went to prison Rikers for 15 years and things like that. And I watched him live a lifestyle, and it's being taken away and changes in his life. And I felt like when I painted this, I felt like it was just the way America set us up. Like it was designed flawed. And so this painting right here is him in front of the White House and thinking, you know, and I witnessed those things, you know, like him sitting on a bucket and other family members as well, sitting on a bucket outside on a shade tree. And, you know, but I was a real analytical kid growing up. So I would always I wouldn't talk much. I would just listen. I would just listen and watch. And I studied people, like, basically, and the way they moved and things like that. So, and that leads to this next painting, which this painting right here, me, myself, I have never been to prison, but I have a lot of family members that has. And right here, when I painted this in 2020, that's when I was starting to be able to paint faces and things like that. And with this painting right here was important to me because I've always felt like people in my city was a bunch of adults that never was able to be a kid, you know. So it was like a reminder that, you know, sometimes, you know, these people are going to prison and things like that, but they're still somebody's kid. They're still kids at heart. You know, like a lot of times you could, even to this day, you could see an adult, you could tell an adult that missed their childhood. Like, just talk to them and see what excites them and things like that, and you could tell like they might have lived a life that they didn't even get a chance to even be kids, you know, because you have to grow up super early. So this was one of my another favorite painting of mine that was important because I needed that message to get out, because I felt like it was important for me to let those people that's locked away and sent away and things like that to know somebody do care about them and see them if their parents aren't checking on them and things like that. So I felt like it was really important for me to do those things because those things to me matters for people to be seen. Any questions on painting? No.
What's the sparrow?
Oh, so with this sparrow is important because this sparrow was like it's like a symbol of peace for me because it had always been my inner peace. So growing up in my grandmother's, growing up on Narrow Street, like you never knew what was gonna happen, like because we had to walk to school. We had to walk to school, walk back. You're talking about 45 minutes in the hood, so anything could happen. And by the time you made it home, you wasn't thinking like, oh my God, I'm relieved, but you were kind of sort of relieved. And my grandmother, she had this nice bush with a bunch of sparrows, and it was so like, it was like heavenly almost, because she had the nice rose garden, she had the bush, she had the birds, everything flocked there because nothing else on the street was worth flocking to, at least in my eyes anyways. So that's that. We got, so a lot of my paintings are things that I care about, and also like based off of true stories. So this painting right here It's called Four Brown Chairs. So with this painting right here, it was a moment where I started feeling bad for being an artist, knowing that when I go home, not everybody has the opportunity that I have. And this painting right here is me, based off of me just kind of looking at family members and dealing with loss and things like that. So like this T-shirt, that's on that T-shirt, that's one of my cousins that I really care about. He didn't get a chance to see me become an artist and at this level, but he was one that always told me, like, I'm smarter than most. And he always told me, you know, I had $1 million hands because I was sketch for him. I didn't know what that meant at the time. I just was like, oh, whatever, you know. But he would always tell me these things, and there was he had the opportunity to own a nightclub, and he asked me to paint a portrait of this black family, and he always knew I could sketch. At this time, I had never painted. This was before he passed away, so I'm thinking like 2009 or something. I haven't painted before, and so I was so like, I was in a way of scared because I didn't want to let him down, because he was a father figure in my life, like major, and I didn't want to let him down. So every time he would call me, I was like, oh man, I gotta do this. Oh man, I have to do that. And eventually he passed away, got in a bad car accident, and I was his pallbearer, but I never got a chance to share this because he would be here, if that makes sense. So that's the reason why any opportunity I get to talk about art or paint or anything, I don't take it for granted, because, you know, if I would have did that, I wouldn't be dealing with what I deal with now, you know, if that makes sense. So that's the story of that. So this is for men thinking about the future of how things could turn out. You know, growing up in our neighborhood, you have to do that a lot. You can't just live life, you have to survive life.
Question. Where is that painting now?
So this is at the DMA. It's part of their personal, their collection. So yes, you know, Dallas Museum. So it's really cool because I saw this photo of it in the back room with this painting and Picasso right behind it, and I was able to like, you know, I was just thinking like the spirit has spoken. So.
That's one of the morning T-shirts?
Yes. So it's one of those things of, you know, I don't know where else they do it at, but I know they do it at home a lot. It was one of those things where you want that person to know, like, you know, you care. It's like, it's one of those things. You'll see it on this next slide with this stained glass window that I created. And again, his image is on that T-shirt because he's everywhere with me. So with this, when I created this, this was based off a painting that I've done, and the painting itself was about, like, if you put the youth in a situation where they don't have a choice, like, you have to forgive them for what they're going to do. Like, in life, like, you can't expect people to walk a straight line if you never give them the tools to actually win. So when I go home and I go places and I'm walking around, I think about those things, because it's like, man, you know, if God forbid something happened to me, right? I do know it was because they didn't have a choice. A lot of times they really don't. It's like starve, because people are surviving. People are going to survive. And that's just the way the world is. So in the city I'm from, you see a lot of adults go and get rebaptized. Usually you get baptized when you're a kid. But in my city, again, we have a lot of adults that never got a chance to be kids. So you see them going back to get baptized because of either the things they've done or the circumstances just not making sense. So we're looking, growing up in the South, you're looking for a savior. Like, you're looking for something, like, because you almost feel like you're on an island, so. But that was a piece that I really enjoyed painting. I don't have the actual painting here, but that's almost direct of the painting. Any questions? No? Okay, keep going. So this is another piece. This was called Gang Signs. I think I did maybe 2 so far from this series I was working on, neon lights. But again, this one called Gang Signs because I felt like we see cops today are acting like mafia leaders more than like protecting and serve. And I feel like cops, in their weird defense, they're only trained to be reactive, not proactive. And because of that, we have these things that we witness on television today that we couldn't witness back in the day because we didn't have the technology. So, any questions? Yes?
How did you, does that number mean anything, like the 19,000, is that like a symbology, or?
You can't hear.
The 1982?
Yeah, the number 19,820. Is there a symbolic meaning behind it?
I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction, but I did research, and it was from a time period of how many innocent people that got, I would hate to say death, but mishandled by cops. Somewhere in there, when I did the research, that's how I come up with some of the numbers. I think it's actually 982 for the numbers. So a lot of my work, I use symbolism. I try my hardest to I don't try hard because it's natural, but in my work is very poetic, so you won't ever see me paint something so blatant. Like, I'm not gonna paint like cop shooting someone, or I'm not gonna paint slavery, and I'm not gonna do those things. I stay away from those things, and I take more of a poetic approach to the work. And my work is always about the consequences of those actions that was out of our hands. Sweet. And here, so this is a series where I could talk about it all day and all night, because this is a series that I finally focused on my feelings of losing close people in my family. There was a period of time where we was burying one person. I was pallbearer to with someone else, and then the next year they was dead, and I had to pallbearer with them next to somebody else. So seeing all those things, it kind of, again, I've always been a quiet person because I was really analytical. So seeing all those feelings, I would lock them lock them tight inside of me. And this was a time where I was like, man, I really want to share this with the world. I want to talk about it. I want to let it out. And that's when I created this series called Carrying Caskets. So it's a bunch of portraits of me being a pallbearer, like here. So this is actually a scene from the graveyard that it's as weird as it may sound, but we kind of grew up in a graveyard because we had to walk every day to school through the graveyard. And in the graveyard, that's where you get your first kiss. You might get in a fight. Everything happens in the graveyard. So the graveyard to me, it's just like childhood memories because we stayed in the graveyard all the time because we had to pass through it, have family members that was buried, so we would go see our great-grandmother and our grandpa and things like that. So like it was normal to, like that to us is normal. It's like one of those things. But yeah, so this is the actual area that I pretty much grew up in a sense. And again, the reoccurring, the sparrows symbolizing peace, the music, and also the T-shirts. And the reason why these are open-faced because I felt like it was important for people to engage with the painting and realize it was a way for people to actually feel like they were included because I'm not the only person that lost someone that they cared about. And I felt like if I put somebody that I know is still engaging, but not like the imagination of someone that you actually care about as well. So, questions? Okay. Here's another painting from that series. It's called Blame the Man. And with this painting, again, I always talk about the consequences of not giving communities or the youth the tools to win. So you can't blame them for the things that could happen and will happen. You just have to blame the man, which I call the man the government, for continue to allow these things and not give enough opportunities. Because when I go home, it takes people like myself, people like this guy right here that's big into the community back in Baton Rouge, takes people like us to go back and try to make change. But is it solely on us to make that change, or can we start getting the government to get involved instead of blocking the changes that we want to make, So, So this painting right here is another one from that series, Carrying Caskets, and this one is solely focused on myself because I felt like I'm always wondering how everybody else feels, but I felt like it was important for me, myself, to highlight myself and really feel those things and not be so hardened to these situations that occur in life. Question?
Yeah, sorry to add another one.
No.
In a couple pages ago, you had the blue frame around it. There's just this, Of course, yeah. So a couple of paintings ago, you had the blue frame around it. Here you've got the white, I'm looking at the blue there, and then you go ahead,
Right.
You've got a little white, and then on the corner, and then the next one, you've got the white floating up in the air.
Right.
Is that imagination? Is that something that you just curious how you thought of that?
Well,
If you did think of it, maybe you did.
yeah, well, I paint a lot of things out of a stream of consciousness and exactly how I feel at the moment. So those things will occur, and it's not one of those things where it occurs because I'm purposely trying to make it happen. It's just one of those things that just will have, it happens time to time because that's how I'm feeling. It's just like any abstract artist that would just, just go with it. And I do the same thing. And it's one of those things also when I look back, I analyze my work as well, and I wonder, is it one of those things where it just feels out of place? Because I've always felt out of place into the art world. So I'm like I just don't fully know, but I let it happen. Anything that comes, I let it happen. Because when I started painting, a lot of times it's not this much happening. Like I could start a painting on my cell phone, like a cell phone stick figure sketch, just with colors and stick figures, and I'll know, like at least that's the gist of the direction I want to head. So and I let it form the way it has to form. So.
Jammie, I have an online question that sort of builds upon what you were just saying about sort of sketching, beginning some of your paintings from sketches. And the question is, do you make sketches or drawings before you start painting? How do you go about arranging the shapes?
Well, a lot of times I'll sketch, sometimes on my cell phone, my iPad, or I'll do some charcoal stuff in my studio and just kind of, it's almost, it's as weird as it may sound, sometimes it looks like a blueprint in a way, and I'll just kind of know what I want to do. Like I'll know the gist of it, because sometimes I don't feel like it makes sense in my head to sketch out the whole painting and then go paint it when my work is more of a feeling. And it's like, how can I duplicate? Because if I sketch out the whole painting, I'm not going to paint it. It's like I'm just going to be like, it's done. All the feeling is in there. So I try not to to do them both, if that makes sense. I don't. Again, I have absolutely no training in the arts at all. So I do what feels right, with me. So it's another painting, Furs in Concrete. Any questions? This painting right here is just basically was it was like I was reminiscing of my mother at the time. Like she just, no matter what she was going through, she always, always, always took care of herself. Like I witnessed things with her that, she could be a broken person if she wanted to, but she didn't find the excuse, and she always woke up the next day and put herself together and kept going. So that's why I titled it Furs in Concrete. My titles are unique. Again, behind gold bars, I like to give roses to people that seem non-existent in society. These people are going to come home one day, and some of them are going to come home one day, some of them not. But again, we as a people, we kind of failed so many people, and we turned the other way, and we just let life happen. So again, they're human, and it's my way of just constantly letting people know, like, hey, I see it, I see you, like, everything's good. You're still somebody's kid, somebody still loves you, Right here, this is a painting illusions and the meaning. This painting was a just straight stream of conscious feeling that I was having. Around this time, I almost lost someone that I really care about, like I really love dearly. And I was in my head. I was trying to understand the meaning of life and taking this weird journey inside of my brain, and it shows right here, because I don't think that was the direction of the painting, but it felt right, and I just kept going because I like to look back at my work and see where my head was around this time, like where my headspace, like what was I thinking? Because not a lot of us, we don't have journals no more. Back in the day, that was a thing where people write journals and their diaries and things like that. So I like to paint exactly how I'm feeling at that time. And this piece right here was the exact moment where I just was painting exactly how it felt, and found this nice crown at the top, next door to my studio, and put it on there. But I love it.
Can you speak about the number 5?
So the number 5 is, how should I put this without, it means, I know exactly what it means. It's a number for either life or God, and it comes from something that I've read and things like that. I don't know if everybody's ever heard of like the 5%ers and
What? The 5%?
exactly. Right. So, it's a feeling. It's this whole thing is a feeling. So, but yeah.
Are you ever surprised by where the painting takes you if if the composition is operating on feeling?
Yeah. I'm more of like, just let these things happen. I let these things happen, numbers, colors, whatever. I don't force nothing, and I don't fight it at the same time. I would never fight how I'm feeling. I've always said, like, numbers is the only facts of life outside of like death and birth, but numbers is like it's the ultimate, like, true God in a way. But so I just let these things happen. So you'll see numbers in my work. You'll see sparrows, other all types of symbols that I'm aware of what they mean. It just might not always be the perfect time or for me to explain all of it in a way. It's certain things. Yes.
Well, I don't know whether you're aware, but in the Hebrew language, the letter Hey means God, and it's the 5th letter in the Hebrew language. in the
Nice.
alphabet.
Nice. Yeah. There we go. But yeah, this whole painting was it was a spiritual painting for myself. I think this at this time where it almost turned into a shrine, and I'm glad that Marianne decided to show it at Basel, because it was going to turn into a shrine. I'm sure it would have had candles and a whole bunch of other things all around it. So, but yeah. Here we go. This is another baptism painting, not experiment, but just having that conversation of adults being baptized. I've always asked people to challenge that statement because it's a real life situation. I guarantee, for the most part, if a grown man or grown lady gets baptized, they've been through some stuff. Like, they definitely been through some stuff. So it's one of those things, like, and again, in my situation, I do self-portraits, again, because I feel like I'm a stand-in for my city and state and also the South in a way. So I put myself there and in the place of all of those people. And it's almost like the Statue of Liberty. Like, when you see the Statue of Liberty, you instantly feel like you're in America, almost. So it's like, I try to use myself as such for my city, because for the people at home that haven't seen art before, if they know me, so when they see the painting of me, instantly they feel like, they don't feel small. You know, they feel like, oh yeah, that's, I know art, that's Jammie. So it helped open doors to a lot of people. Like, I still get Facebook pictures from people I went to school with of their kids' art. So it definitely opened doors, and I'm hoping that I could continue to open doors with my face or my story or whatever comes, So these right here, this was a series of sparrow paintings that I was doing because I paint a lot of figurative work, and it's like figurative painting, and there was this part of me where I wanted to take a break from those subjects and the things that I was talking about, because I feel like all my work is like a big rant, and I felt like this was the opportunity. I was sitting in my studio and I was like, I want to do something. I want to paint, but I don't want to paint people, but I want to paint something that kind of symbolizes people, but it's a feeling. And that's when I came up with this, like, on the spot. It was not like thought out, but I just had a canvas and I just went with it. And I named them Peace of Mind because it was like a repetitive thing that I was doing, painting the sparrows, doing the bush work and things like that, and it was soothing me. And so what I decided to do from there was, anytime I need to take a break, I want to paint these because it kind of slowed me back down, makes me feel good, then I could restart. And now it just became one of those things where I will paint those to go into my my solo exhibitions and things like that, because, again, my work is, sometimes the subjects are really real, like, strong. So this is a way of, like, sharing peace with everybody. Like, hey, like, this is how I feel inside. Like, here you go, type of way. And these sparrows, again, started off in my grandmother's front yard. I had no clue that sparrows migrated because, again, Thibodaux, Louisiana, it's just a whole bunch of black folks and white folks and birds and alligators and things. So you're not really, like, thinking the world was as big as it is, Thank God for my mom living in Harlem when she was a young girl, my uncle living out here. Thank God for them, because I don't think that I would even have the courage to even move around as much as I do today. So, but yeah, so I never knew the sparrows migrated until one day I saw them in Texas, and I was like, oh shit. Like, I was like, had no clue. that I would see these birds here. It's like pigeons, right? Like my sons, I was sitting in the car, and they had pigeons in Texas, and my sons swore up and down those wasn't pigeons because they said they're only in New York. So but through me, I take them around. I took them to New York, and they was able to see the pigeons. So through me, I do things that I didn't get a chance to do when I was young. So I make sure I show them the world and everything else under the sun that I could teach them. Again, so this painting right here, this is called, so this was a two-piece series. I wish I had the other photo, but I don't think I do, so I'm gonna go back. But this painting right here was actually two paintings. It's called The Illusion of Freedom. And this was like a study of my brother, me witnessing his freedom for the first time. He was born and raised in Thibodaux, never left Thibodaux, never left Louisiana until 2021. I gave him a job to come work at my studio. And when he came to my studio, I was so like guarded over him. I was worried like that I had to be there for him all the time. But I quickly learned that he haven't even lived life until he got out of Thibodaux. So when he moved to Dallas, he had his own friends, he had everything, and it was like, wow, like he didn't even know he was like, he could do so much. He didn't know he could move around the way he's moving around. He didn't know all those things. He just really was, he was just in Thibodaux. Like, it's because Thibodaux is a place where, I don't know, I feel like it keeps you, it just keeps you in a time, like, I feel like every time I go home, I feel like it's in the 90s or something. I don't know. It's a small city, super small, so there's not a lot. Like, I feel like people move out of Thibodaux, not move to Thibodaux, in a way. Here's an exhibition that I've done at Marianne Boesky. It's called What We Talking About. And this one right here is, this was more based off of a feeling of community in Thibodaux. Like here, Go Geneva. Again, this is not exactly Thibodaux setting. If you look to the back there, there's like buildings that they have in New York. And that is my way of, when I put those buildings in the paintings, that is my way of tying this North and the South together, because I feel like it's a universal thing. Like some of the things that we go through in the South happens in New York, happens anywhere in so many different communities around the world as well. So here's more photos from that. Growing up in Thibodaux, we had cops where, like, cops didn't kill anybody, like, because the cops lived down the street. So it was more of like people that you might have went to school with. So they wasn't out to arrest you. It was, if anything, it would help you more than anything, you know. So sometimes. Again, more of a series that I was working on. Well, that same series. These have images of Kathleen Cleaver and Fred Hampton, or some people that I admired because they spoke up at an early age for equality and things like that. I'm a big fan of equality and fighting for what you believe in, and things like that.
Brandy glass in this one.
That's Kathleen Cleaver. So she's a Black Panther member. It was just like, I felt like it was important to give roses to people that try to make changes in communities where, you know, we're supposed to depend on government and things like that.
And what about the flags?
So the flags are different African flags, and at the same time you have the Pan-African flag, and you have the David Hammond's flag, and I included my flag in this work as well to be a part of that history of flag making, because I feel like flags are one of those things of like territory, you know, and I just felt like because flags are so like, you know, I've witnessed like you can't let a flag touch the ground. You have to treat it better than you treat people. So it's like, I'm like, well, I want to be a part of that. And except what mine is also borrowed colors from the Pan-African flag, but yet I have the eyes on there because that is asking the world to have the conversation of seeing the world through the colors of any minority in the world, you know, through black skin, through brown skin, through any minority, because everybody has to go outside different. Like, wake up in the morning, or till this day, if I go to a store, like I'm scared to put my hands in my pocket, I don't know if I think I'm stealing and things like that. So it's like one of those things I felt like will at some point spark a conversation among people to have those it's like a urge. I'm asking people to have those conversations with each other. Like, you already know about your community. Like, you already know those things, so why not share knowledge and understanding? So that's why, like, with my work, I don't focus on it has to be with just this type of collector, because my work is more of like sharing a feeling and also educating people of where I'm from and how I feel. Let's see. So, same painting, Toast to Kathleen. Again, just giving roses to those that fought to make changes. Let's see. Any questions? Because we're getting close to getting out of here. So, any questions? Okay.
Question. You showcased one of the paintings that was, what was it? I think it was a church-like painting. It was on the slides. The stained glass, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Does that relate to your upbringing? Because it comes off very spiritual, church-like. I don't know if you grew up in the church. Is that related? Does that relate to you in any way?
Yeah. So growing up, we had to go to church. It was one of those things. Like, I lived like two houses down from my grandmother, and on her way to church, she's waking somebody up to come to church with her. So we would all walk to church, and it was one of those things where I never took it serious, but I always paid attention to what was happening. Reason why I couldn't take it serious, because some of the things that I've witnessed, again, walking to church, like walking to school, the things that we witnessed, and those same people was in church, I just was like, man, like, it's like, I'm asking these questions that nobody want to give me answers to, so I just shut up and I just paid attention to it, and I was like, oh, okay, so you do this, you just go to church, you get baptized, you're good. It doesn't matter, you can do it like 50 times and you're good, So at least in my head, that's the way I was thinking. And so yeah, like the church is, it is very big at home, but I think it's more of like a thing for family. I don't think it's geared solely on Jesus. I think it's more of like, it's 'cause you're getting ready to have Sunday dinner. Like, you think about all of those things. I never went to church.
Afterwards,
Right.
after church and stuff
I
like that.
never thought about anything but a sweet potato pie after church. So I was thinking about that for the most part. So and I feel like a lot of people back home, they find it's like a family reunion for everybody in a way. So, but yeah, so the churches had always been important to my upbringing.
I have one more. I have one more question. You mentioned how some of the paintings, people were getting baptized as adults because they went through a lot of struggles as youth. Now thinking about a lot of the movies that I've watched, like a lot of the urban movies that you see a lot of the adults getting baptized in some of these movies. And it's one movie that I saw that happen, and you kind of figured because of how he was living and the setting he was in. So I was just thinking about that as I was looking at one of the paintings.
Right. Because a lot of movies come from real life situations, and a lot of my paintings come from real life situations as well. And I witnessed plenty of adults go back to church that might have just got out of prison and went get baptized. And like, I know someone that went to prison, got baptized, and got murdered within that year. So it's the way, how life is. All right, so we're getting close to getting out of here. So what I'm going to do is just scan some photos, go through the PDF, and if you got some questions, you can ask them.
You talk about the flower.
Yeah. So this is it's like a character I made called Goldie. And this is because one day I was painting, and again, thinking and ranting and all these different things. And I was thinking about like just being in the South, because I've been in the South my whole life. I never lived outside of the South. And I was like, a lot of things that I tried to adjust to a lifestyle that I wasn't used to, like a real, like, straight up, like, lifestyle of you dress a certain way, you look a certain way. And I was like, man, like, where I grew up, people had gold teeth in their mouth. It was just, like, the things that I thought the things that people was calling ghetto was called culture at home. And even to the point to where at one point I myself thought like, oh man, I'm not gonna paint anybody with gold teeth, like that's just ghetto. But then I realized, no, that is culture. That my grandmother still have gold teeth in her mouth. So here, he is a character that I created that is a symbol of the South. Also, my work, I touch base on history at the same time. So here, this is like it's like a moment of Jim Crow era type image at the same time, but taking it and owning it in a different light. But yeah. Some more Goldie statue. It's actually in the painting right here. This right here, this is like that, still at the wrong table. Again, I've always felt like trying to find my place in the art world, but still connected to like people back home and things like that. And I never want to make them feel like I feel above and beyond them. But I've been to tables where I felt this big. So this right here is like through an actual true experience. Still trying to find that table that you belong at as an artist, I guess. Goldie again. It's a series I was working on. I was paying homage to the Vietnam soldiers that was fighting a war at the same time. They had a war going on in the United States against black folks in America. Here, or flag motif. I like to bring that into play, especially when I'm thinking about liberation and freedom and things like that. It's an exhibition I've done in Fort Worth, and again, the church is a major. It's like a pyramid for black people, like in America, because because I've always wondered what would that look like in today's time, like if we were being studied in, let's say, 100,000 years. What are we going to leave behind? And I feel like churches in America is one of those things that's going to be looked at like, oh, wow, like it's almost like our pyramids in the States, and definitely in black neighborhood, because it stands everywhere. It's more of that. That was the inside of the church. This painting right here is also part of that small series I was working on about the Vietnam soldiers. Just giving them their roses. A lot of them won't be here in the next, 20 years. Some of them already gone. So I felt like I was young enough, and I'm able to use my platform right now to give them their roses and say, hey, thank you, I see you, and things like that. See in the room.
Can you go back to the zebra?
Yes, ma'am. So this painting right here is it's based off of like identity, which is my identity. So on the right side, there's a zebra, but it's cut in half because my father's from Sierra Leone and my mom is from Thibodaux. So it's me sharing that emotion, that feeling with the world, as well as I was raised by all women. So me highlighting the lady in this photograph and giving her that gold frame, because gold back in the olden art, the time period like 1700s and 1800s, if you look at a lot of those paintings, you see gold only on spiritual leaders or kings and queens, and furs on them, and it's not on the common folks. So right here is my way of like highlighting her, giving her that nice gold frame. And this guy here, he has a suit on, but at the same time, he still has gold teeth. And that's just more of a symbol of myself still being grounded to the South, to society, and things like that. Even though I don't have gold teeth, but it's just that symbol of of that that both worlds in a way. Again, there's a Black Panther food programs. Again, paying homage to those that fought and try to make change in the society, and which they had made change in society for the good. That's how free lunch started for kids. Okay, so this is a preview of my exhibition tomorrow. This series I worked on was called Church Folks, because again, I felt like it's part of my DNA at this point. Like that's the way I was raised. So when I worked on the series, I wanted to show not only people at church, but at the same time show people getting ready for church and after church and things like that. And you'll see it here in these works right here. Lady with the red nails. Smile. And that's it. That's all the paintings.